Wait, one sec. One sec. Knew he's here. Knew he's here. Boy's downstairs. I can't see. I'm blind. Noogie, come say hi. People want to see you.
He's my guest.
He's your guest?
Yes.
Is you're Danish? Oh. He's Noogie.
Hello.
You gotta build the fence. Are you excited for today?
It must be so weird.
Yes.
Like, real life.
Yo. Let's see if chat can hear me. Can chat hear me?
This is a logout. Okay. Okay, guys. Good one. Good one. That's toxic. That's toxic. Sigh. That's toxic. Hi, Noogie. Hi, Quinn. This streamer is toxic? What do you mean? How am I toxic? Fuck off. I literally said that was toxic. I said that was toxic. So I am not toxic. When someone linked it, I was like, haha, good one. That is toxic. So you know what? Stop. Stop. I said that was toxic. Literally, first thing I said. Messaged. Thank you. All right. We have a build here. Let's see. Let's see. So you're struggling to do yellow maps. Tier 10s are hard as fuck. Okay, then my next question. Is it Visa or MasterCard? Like, if tier 10s are too hard, then how did you farm all this? Like, honestly, like, I don't understand how you would possibly have this gear.
There's a lot of different stuff, that you guys have indicated you may ask us, and we're pretty much prepared for all of it. We're going to be talking with other content creators as well. Like I have a chat with Zizaran lined up, possibly sometime next week for more questions. We don't know what the topics will be there yet. It really depends what's covered here. So I guess, ask everything you can. I'm going to be pretty candid with this stuff, right? Like normally we would wait until the 316 live stream and then drop a bunch of cool things, which would ideally fix all the problems. But I don't really want to wait that long. And so kind of marketing be damned at this stage. I'm just going to tell you changes that we're making in 316 and, we'll do a live stream announcing them fully later. Obviously they'll be, iterated on by then, but yeah, expect a bunch of early info and hopefully a lot of transparency.
Okay. Right, well, so to start off then, is the intention going forward to keep nerfing the game as suggested in the 315 marketing?
Adrenaline gives you move speed during Flask Effect, and there are 4 different tiers of it, for example. So by eye level 85, it's quite a lot higher than the starting one that you get at the beginning of the game.
Awesome.
But then when Adrenaline is used on a life or mana flask, it gives you onslaught for X seconds on use. And so this lets you have both proactive and reactive versions of a lot of the mods. They then want to add crafting mods for flask suffixes. They want to add it to regular Helena crafting. They want to do a review of belt mods. They want to have a look at unique jewel buffs. They want to review flask-focused uniques. There's this quote here that says, your flasks are always in effect, as something that they're looking at potentially for a unique. If you're playing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, piano playstyle, maybe there's a unique that
That
just
sounds
turns
too
all the
OP,
flasks on
but
and leaves
sure.
them on. There's a bunch of stuff here. Immunity. Add clusters to the passive tree to mitigate poison and bleed, similarly symmetrically to crystal skin. Add mitigation to bleed to steel skin, potentially changing bone armor from the necromancer ascendancy. Add mitigation to ignite to molten shell. Add additional corrupted implicits on various items, but jewels in particular for mitigating ailments. Change consecrated ground to provide 50% reduced effective curses on those with buff moving curse effect mitigation cluster to be more central and thus more accessible. Add additional jewel mods to regular jewels for mitigating ailments to the regular mod pool. Audit existing avoidance and mitigation mods, in some cases buffing them. For example, the Abyss jewel ailment avoidance mods currently can be up to 20%, changes to be 35% or so. Audit crafting options for mitigating ailments and ensure there are enough options, especially at low levels. Change shield ailment avoidance mod to be on all shields. Add crafting options for cannot be shot, chilled, ignited, poisoned, take no extra damage from bleed while moving, cannot be frozen from the Brine King. You don't need to like delve down to 6,000 or something like that to actually get good rewards.
Nice.
Um,
That sounds really good.
in addition, we're going to make it so that if you get to tier 16 maps and then you don't delve, the catch-up mechanic puts you at a relatively deep depth, so you don't need to just play through hundreds and hundreds of really early tiers.
Please.
We're considering adding the Uber domain of Timeless Conflict. We haven't worked out what that means, but basically taking Legion and saying what is the Uber version of that. Uber blighted maps, for example, basically going through old leagues that are working well and saying this is content, but the top characters can clear it. What if they couldn't?
Hell
and then
yeah!
make a version of that that's incredibly difficult and incredibly rewarding.
Yes.
We may add Ultimatum back to the core game and then potentially allow for
Sure.
more than 10 waves where it just ramps up and up and up in a
Yes.
crazy way. We're at farming stage basically in the Atlas. And so we have some changes for 3.16 that we're looking at. Again, these are preliminary. Okay. Oh dear, probably should have checked with more people before just reading the stuff out of our internal tools, but we'll pay the consequences. Okay, so our current plan is the following. We reduce the Atlas to 4 regions rather than 8, and this means you have to acquire far less watchstones, and the progress to farming Cyrus will be far, far shorter. We're reducing the Atlas to have 100 maps rather than 160, so that means your Atlas completion will only require 100 maps, each one's worth 1%, and we're going to shuffle those, so every time we shuffle the locations of the maps, we also cycle some maps in and out, like we do with Zana mod rotations. All the bonuses from all of these will be increased to compensate. For example, you get +1 awakening level per 2 watchstones instead of from 4, and the map completion bonuses will be changed to provide the same total benefit, just over fewer maps. And so this takes nothing away apart from potentially some tile sets in a given league. And it means you'll be at farm status for your Atlas after killing 16 conquerors instead of 32. And this will hopefully mean that the grind to get to that point is significantly reduced without cutting the journey out. And so that's what we're looking at for 3.16 to see what would happen if we just made that grind a lot shorter so you're at farming stage earlier. Then
I think everyone likes that.
Yeah, for 3.17, we're going to continue to make awesome stuff that we haven't even thought of yet. So I can't even spoil that.
Just on the point though of the 4
Atlas
regions,
passives?
so obviously that's going to impact how Atlas passives work. Could you just briefly explain what's happening there with like stuff?
Not really going to want to click 10 times to get those. And so our hypothesis here is to have it that at certain bands, the average sizes of the Wisdom Scroll and other small currency stacks get larger, and the relative occurrence of them gets less common. So you might find that you're finding Wisdom Scrolls 1/10 of the current amount, but you're finding them in stacks that average 10, maybe 6 to 14 or something like that. And so therefore, it's worth a click to pick up like 14 Wisdom Scrolls in one go. And the same may mean that when like augments drop, you're finding 5, you're not finding 1. You're just not getting a small smattering of augments all over the screen, you're getting them less frequently. It could mean, for example, that in a breach, instead of getting several splinters, you just get a larger stack of like 15 splinters every few breaches. It's the same amount of currency, it just involves a lot less random clicking, and to some extent lets you actually make it gut the item system to the extent that I was talking about for hard mode. It will certainly mean that you don't have like this incredible sea of items that are completely worthless. You know, like the amount of white items dropping is somewhat unbelievable right now. And to some extent, that stuff is not making it any easier to pick things up. As a side note, by the way, one thing we're discussing is having an option to not render filtered items. Like the intention is that if items are filtered by your filter, so you don't want to see them, then why are we rendering them and their shadows and all of that kind of stuff? Like if you've got a couple of hundred items on the ground that you don't care about and you've chosen not to care about with your filter, maybe they essentially shouldn't exist for your client from a performance point of view. So that's something we're also experimenting with.
To explain a little bit more about the pickup range thing, it's a bit like if Melee had like 1/10 of the attack range, weapon range that it has now.
There's so many small reasons for this. Like from a testing point of view, QA is already struggling with incredibly complicated game as it is, and having it so that there's an infinite amount of like custom UI stuff is going to cause problems where someone works out to do something which is kind of broken that we weren't able to detect in testing so easily. Then you've got the branding of it, where it's quite important for Path of Exile to look like Path of Exile. And if Path of Exile looks like 10 different games to different people, then it's hard to, for that to be communicated. And this is something I care about probably more than the players care about. They don't have to worry about our branding, but it's the type of decision we have to make here. So we're looking to improve it. We have some really cool mock-ups of crazy UI stuff for PoE 2 that'll probably never see the light of day, but would certainly show people the experimentation we've been doing.
So on that note, and it kind of leads into my next point about consoles.
I think that rare monster mods are in a good situation at all. One of the changes that we recently moved out of 3.16 into currently 3.17 is to completely replace all rare monster mods in the game with stuff that are easier to understand visually at a glance and kind of, simpler and more impactful. So monsters don't have like 5 properties that all stack in the same way. Maybe a monster does 1 or 2 things, which could stack in extreme situations, but there's less kind of just general spam of monster stuff going on. This is an early idea that we have, but we're not at all happy with some of the things to do with the way that the stuff stacks, or the way there's too much stuff to read, and it's just a bit of a mess to try to understand rare monsters. And so we want to improve this. Currently, this is not slated for 3.16 because it's actually quite a lot of work to do it properly. There may be other changes we can make in 3.16 to do with the aura stacking kind of problem on rares. Offensive stuff, and I hear it and I will pass it on to the team and try to get you a better answer. And what's likely to happen is this is something that we haven't pre-prepared enough of a response to, basically. And so when we do our next one of these with the community, maybe like there's one next week or whatever, it's something we may be able to talk about in more detail. So I'm hoping that we continue the dialogue, get you more information about those things, because we can only solve things at a human pace, if you see what I mean.
I'm very aware that you need to go, so I just want to thank you for your time, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
3.5 hours of grilling, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get used to it as part of my weekly routine.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Just make a good game. Come on, Chris. Don't get used to it. Just make a good game, lol.
That means Buff Sunder, right?
Hey.
I wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah.
Right, thanks, everyone. It was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Thank
See you
you.
later. Bye.
I think we did pretty decent. I think.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be plenty of like people on both sides of it. People being satisfied with like how that went and satisfied.
Oh,